Hey everyone, welcome to See Joy and Expand podcast. I'm your host, Christian Joy, where we talk about all the things in the way we want to talk about them because I always had this inner child wound of wanting to say things a certain way. Like I had to say it that way, or people will look at me funny or do something weird. And I just like to be raw and real. And this is how I have conversations with people. And today I have Stormy on again. She was, I believe, episode 8 and 9 earlier on in the podcast. And when we connect and get together, our brains go in a million different directions in our conversation. And because I love unedited and unfiltered, this is how I am going to share this episode because you know what? This is how real human conversation looks like. And I feel, me personally, based on my personal experience, there's not enough representation out there of what a real human conversation in all its raw goodiness and how it really looks like. It's like, yeah, I don't see it enough out there. So, and usually it's the edited version. I only lightly edit my podcast episodes so that just to remove the really loud sounds that make it like challenging to listen to and things like that. But for the most part, I keep my episodes as is. And if you're watching on here, welcome. This is me. I started doing videos a few episodes ago, and this has been a fun experience. So, um, by the way, I opened up life coaching spots a couple weeks ago, and the container is closing on June 2nd. So I opened up spots for life coaching, embodiment life coaching for your Technicolor human and for becoming your Technicolor human. And when we've lived our world in black and white and we did everything a certain way, and because our parents told us, society told us to, um we followed the formula, but it always feels like underneath that there's something more to all this. Like something's missing. I got all the things that I wanted. I did all the things that I was supposed to do to make me happy. I achieved so many things, but I still feel like there's this surface level. There's something more to this. There's something that I'm missing. And that's what I do in my coaching container. That's what I do, is helping people excavate how their soul wants to be expressed in this life. And I have two-tiered coaching and quantum hypnosis in all containers. It's a 4-month container. One is a weekly meetup, and the second container, tier 2, is a bi-weekly meetup. So it takes in consideration the time you have to devote to um, this relationship. So I am really excited. I got a visual when I was coming to what is wanting to come through me in this container, and it's like living the world in black and white, like everything in your past, living in black and white doesn't feel great to you. It feels like forcing or pushing. You're often exhausted. Um, you followed all the rules, but it still does not feel, there's always just something missing. And that's very much been the journey I've had for the past 5 years. After I had my awakening and I decided to what do I want? Who am I? Because I spent most of my life not spending any time in understanding who I am and what do I want? What are my interests? So then, as you shift into self discovery, and we'll discover together what it is you want from this life. What does your Technicolor human look like? What is your Technicolor experience? All the colors start to flood in into your life, and it starts to feel different. It feels more aligned, maybe more loving, more gratitude, more abundant, more peaceful, more exciting, more joyful, more magnetic. All the words, whatever your word is, because everybody has a different word. And we'll discover that together, and notice that a smile came into my face. Grew, and a smile grew on my face is what I'm trying to say. that's how my experience was. Like when I think about my past, I was like, man, I like always used my mind to like try to figure out what is the next step. Like, what am I doing? I'm always feeling lost. And now that I'm not following the formula of where to go in life, I don't know where I'm going, but did I ever really know where I was going? But now that I'm really stepping into that, I don't know where I'm going all the time and being okay with that, letting myself live my life the way I want to. And if you're familiar with, I forgot the name of this book, but it's this nurse. She wrote a book about I think it's the top 5 regrets, something like that. I'll find the book title and put it in the show notes. And she said the number one regret of people is that on their deathbed, because she's a hospice nurse, was that people wish they had lived the life they wanted to, or on their terms, the life that they wanted to. Because often we don't have the courage to do so. So that's what my coaching container is about, stepping into who you are meant to be in this lifetime and all its colors that it comes with. And now I really love our next guest, Stormy Sage. I have Stormy Sage on again, and she is the living embodiment of somebody who's always following their North Star, and whatever it looks like, whatever she's doing in all her transformations. I've known her for years now, and I'll like pop onto social media and things like that every once in a while, and I'll see her like what she's on to next, and it always tickles my soul. Like, follow her. I'm like, I say it a million times during this episode, because really when you follow her, if you resonate with her, she's such an activator for being the person who you're meant to be in your own expression, in your own unique way. The first time I ever met her, we were at a spiritual retreat together, and just seeing her, it felt that way. So that was before she even changed her name. So, anywho, I hope you guys love this episode. And if you guys could leave a comment on wherever you're following me, on Spotify or Substack or YouTube, like it, leave me a 5-star review, what have you, whatever platform you're listening to on or watching this. And I'll deeply appreciate it so that I can reach more people with my messages. And thank you. Thank you. I appreciate all of you, and enjoy this episode. It's so juicy. I loved it so much. And see you guys on the next one. Making content is so much fun.
I know. I was like, why was I so scared of this for so many years? But I was. And then now that I'm not scared anymore, like I can't stop. Like even if someone paid me to stop, I don't know if I could.
Like, how many videos do you make a day on TikTok?
I make a ton. I try to
I know you do. I keep getting notifications.
Oh, girl, turn your notifications off. That's embarrassing. I don't.
No,
you're
I
like,
mean,
oh,
like, my
here's Stormy
notifications
again.
my notifications are off, but when I go into the app, it's going ding 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 ding, and I was like, oh, there she goes again with her 50 TikToks.
my million ideas all the time. Yeah, well, I was
it's like, brilliant though.
Because what it initially, and I just talked about this on my TikTok actually, was that I the way that I started to get over or like be unblocked with like, what do I post? How do I be? Like, what do I do? Was like, oh, I started equating it to like the gym. And I don't even know if this was my original idea. So if this is somebody else's idea, like, please, I'm not trying to take credit for this, but like somehow it like clicked in where I was like, wait, when I used to lift weights in New York, I had to put in the reps to be able to like be comfortable with that weight, or to like put in the reps to even like see any kind of movement with like my arm. Like, you're not going to go to the gym once and be like buffed, which is what we all want to happen, which is like, I think the same thing that we think about content when we're like, oh, if I make one video, I'm going to blow up, which like, I mean, maybe that's going to happen. Like, we live in miracles.
Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
And that's why I love my podcast, because I'm very much like, this is what I'm doing today and this is what it looks like. And I
Yeah.
don't have the energy to edit it all. And actually I find the how my conversations unfold sparkly, like you. But
Thank you.
can we, before I get carried away, because we did that yesterday and we were talking about food, let me let you introduce yourself before we keep going
Oh
on the
yeah, to
conversation.
we go in further. Yeah. So my name is Stormy Sage. I currently I call myself like the flirty side of the internet. So I love to talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
yeah, I love to talk about life pivots, spiritual glow ups, and reinventing yourself again because because I have gone through so many reinventions and so many pivots, and that's what I like to currently talk about. That's like what it's all about. So I yeah, I'll leave it there and then we'll just get into other things as we evolve. But to circle back real quick on like the content bit. So like putting in the reps at the gym, that's what I started to do. I started to think about content like that, where it's like, okay, if I just put in the reps of like if I put in 3 reps a day of making videos, I'm going to feel more comfortable making videos and making content. Or I'm going to be able to like talk to the camera better today than yesterday because I just did it 3 more times because it's not normal for us to be comfortable like that. Like you have to practice it, and I don't think people talk about that either. And yeah, so I also in my podcast in my content, I try to share my messy middle, like I know you do, because it's like, okay, here we are shooting our shot, we're trying, and it's like we're putting
I was
in the
like, I didn't
reps.
even shower today. I'm still in my pajamas and we're doing this because I
Yeah.
cannot be bothered.
Oh,
And it's
that's so
like
funny.
I think where I would carry that conversation is I would like my, like everything's a program, everything that we do. So what program do you want to choose? So
Yeah.
what I would say next is like, I literally don't care. It's not that I don't care, to be clear. It's that I cannot be bothered with having to show up in a way when I want to be this right now.
Yeah.
Whether it's like my messy self or I actually like took a shower and combed out my hair today
Yeah. Yeah, literally.
and put some makeup a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't even like wearing makeup. I used
Yeah.
to wear makeup all the time. So I love that you don't really wear makeup either, do you?
Yeah, no, I go back and forth because like I've never been a makeup girl. I've been always like the accessories and jewelry kind of gal. So like I went, yeah, if you had to pick one or the other, I'd be like, oh, just give me my jewelry. Like I don't need anything on my face. And if I am going to have makeup, it's like usually makeup that a 5-year-old could do. Like now I'm starting to use brushes, but usually everything I've done for years is like if I could use my fingers, I will. So like that's with like my eyeshadow, like everything. I want to just smear it all over my face and be done. Like I'm not contouring anything, or it's just like the most lazy way
It's
to do
too
things.
much.
I mean,
It's
I put my
and
mascara on, like right, and that's really
yeah,
about it. Sometimes I'll
I'm
put
very
little eyebrows on if I'm feeling like they're too light, but that's like a real extra thing that I'll do.
oh, the
Um,
eyebrows.
yeah,
I love doing my eyebrows. It's like ever since I was younger, I love drawing eyebrows, like drawing.
yeah.
So like on like characters and stuff on a piece of paper. And so when I started doing makeup when I was younger, like making my eyebrows came naturally because I already drew.
Oh,
So it
that's
was a
cool.
lot. I love looking at eyebrows. I see a lot of art on social media on my algorithms, a lot of creativity on Blue Sky and on TikTok. So it just like
Hmm.
feeds my soul when I see those like little details and stuff like that. I'll follow lives. And the other day, sorry, I'm like going to another rabbit hole, but
Take us
I
there.
was watching, yes, I was watching. Okay. So, okay, first of all, let me say this first before I lose it. Um, Stormy is the first person I interviewed on my podcast with video content. So you can watch her evolution on my podcast.
Oh, oh my God. It's like so much. Like, who is she now? We were just talking about that before we recorded. We're like, okay, what are you doing now? Who are you now? Like, yeah, if you didn't listen to the other episodes, like I changed my name. I changed my
You changed
content,
your
like
name.
legally changed my
Yes.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's been such an interesting ride in itself because I changed it in January of this year, I changed my name a year ago. So it's a little bit over a year, just with like the people that I knew. I like was switched my first name. And then around like November, December, I was like, no, I need to do it legally. Like, yeah. So then January, I switched it legally, which I picked my last name too. So Sage is my chosen last name. And it's very feels like I'm just like, we talked about this, like starting my own lineage, which is like a whole
Yes.
bag story in itself because in 2020 we found out that like my dad's dad wasn't his real dad, so like my then last name wasn't really even supposed to be my last name. So it was like I was just not attached to anything that was before that. And yeah, so Stormy Sage came in hot, and so then I've been changing everything legally. So then you need a new social, driver's license, a new passport. Like you're getting everything
It's
legally
been a
changed.
year because I started this podcast a little over a year ago.
Yeah,
I think you're one of my first episodes, like 9 and 8. I think you're episode 9 and 8.
yeah. When
So
I probably just changed it or
you
verbally
did,
changed it with people. Yeah.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
titled it, and I was like, oh, we're calling you something different. Okay,
Yeah.
this is awesome. And we got into the energetics of name change and things like
Oh yeah,
that.
we did. Yeah.
We did. And what was I talking about before we pivoted to your like origin story a little bit in the earlier episodes?
Uh you mean when we spoke or just now or
Just now.
oh
Because I was like,
shoot.
wait, let me say this, and then
Oh
if it's
no.
okay. It'll probably come. No, don't
We'll
worry
circle
about
back again. Wait,
It'll
where did
come
it
back. It
go?
usually does. And this
Yeah.
is why I love my podcast, because this is how real conversations are. I used to have,
Yeah.
so on the last couple episodes, everybody, just FYI, I am going to be publishing these episodes next week. Like, this is how universe works through me, is that whatever's not working in flow is not the direction I'm meant to go.
Mm.
And I was working on other content last night, and the only thing I could edit was the last two episodes with Christine and Renee. So that's what I'm publishing next week, you guys. Because originally I was like, I'm gonna publish it around the same time my interview comes out on their podcast, like in the beginning of June. No,
Yeah.
my podcast, my business has its own timeline. It wants to be the way it wants to be. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
honor that and go with the flow. So now, where were we before I started talking about? Oh, wait. Okay, now I remember. So letting things be the way it wants to be. Like, how
Oh,
am I showing up today
yeah.
in all the
That's what
ways
we were talking
in
about. Yeah.
business? How we feel? How do we want to express ourselves? And for me, for the longest time, media has shaped the way I thought I was supposed to speak. And
Mm.
that is probably what contributed to mine and maybe even yours, your belief systems and your conditionings regarding of how you're supposed to show up in different forms of media, audio or video. And it took me a year to like really let my nervous system be ready for starting the podcast. Like that's how long it took me to be ready energetically. Nobody talks about how long it took people like to start.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody talks about just starting. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like I want to jump out of my skin. And then how do I want to show up? Like, what is my speaking voice? And like, even on Substack, like, what is my writing voice?
Mm.
And it's been like trial and error, experimentation. And I just want to show up in that way so that people like know what this process looks like. Because like I don't think there's enough representation on what that looks like for people's nervous systems. And if you haven't healed your relationship with creativity or experimentation or allowing yourself to be open, curious, and exploring, then all of it is scary.
Yeah. I agree. I've been there a long time, and I feel like especially in certain spaces too that you consider yourself in where it's like, "Oh, well, I want to talk about like beauty content or fitness content or spiritual content or whatever kind of topics you're interested in. And then you look towards other people that are doing things like that. And then you're like, oh, okay. So then we like, our brains just immediately are like, okay, so then that's how you do it. And then that's kind of like what blocked me for a lot of years. Cause then I just kept on trying to think like, you put yourself in somebody else's mold that like that's their style, that's the way they do it, that's the way they speak. And then you haven't quite found your voice yet or how you like to get your ideas across or even know what your ideas are yet. So you're kind of just trying other people's things on. And of course, that doesn't feel great because like, it's not authentic to you. And so I think that like, and that's why I love talking about people in the middle of their life pivots. Like they're literally like, I don't know what's going on, but we're going to go for it. And yeah, and it's
Something just
just,
came through about it. You said life
yeah.
pivots, and
Uh-huh.
I just released your quantum hypnosis, and I love asking this of people, like, what is life like after their quantum hypnosis? And I was re-listening to it, and I've listened to your episode, like your quantum hypnosis, like twice now or three. But every time I revisit an old quantum hypnosis, like it just lands. It's like reading an old book you've like
Mm.
returned to. So I'm opening a page in Stormy's book and was revisiting all of that. And I was like, wow, this is like landing so much differently. This was about, and of course, this is what it was about for you, but like for me, it was all new information. And then there was resonances in the moment. But now that I'm revisiting, I was like, you're like a master transitioner. And that quantum hypnosis was all about transitions and like
Whoa.
meeting yourself in the in between, like from this point to this point. And I was like, wow. And like the death and rebirth cycles and stuff like that. And you do a lot
Yeah.
of death and rebirth
Like
as
it's
you
my job.
evolve. Yeah, it's like it's literally her job. I actually
That's
named it rebirth through space and time.
oh, I love that. I mean, as you were saying that and describing it, I just got like full body chills. But like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just tattooed on me. It's like life, death, life. Like that's just,
Wow.
yeah. I got that done in Nepal actually. When I was like feeling again in another death, and I feel like, yeah, I think just allowing yourself to be like, yeah, that's just no longer me anymore. And you just put down the story of what you were carrying or what your ancestors were carrying or what your family members were carrying or whatever you picked up. And then that goes back to like content where I was like, oh, I can't do this. I can't be that. Like, I don't sound like that. And it's like, um, yeah, not really knowing how to envision myself in that space because I was just trying to be like so many other people. And of course, people are going to feel that. It doesn't land. Like it's not resonant because you're like just, I mean, energetically, everyone's confused because you're confused. And so I think, that just takes practice. That takes reps. Like that takes trying to figure that out. And then that is the middle. And so I feel like not that I'm out of it, but I have, because I've put in so many reps, now I just feel more comfortable being able to like just show up genuinely. This is who I am. And that's like how you just said, okay, I'm in my pajamas. Sometimes my hair's done, even on my TikTok and on my Instagram, even though Instagram sometimes like more polished platform. I like will repurpose content there where it's like sometimes I'm taking my makeup off or like I'm on a walk or I'm have makeup on and my hair's done or sometimes it's not. It's like I like that. I like to see that in the creators I follow too. And I think that's something that we're all really craving is that like, yeah, that just like, oh, no, I don't want to say authenticity because it feels more raw than that. It just feels like, hey, this is me without me trying to put a face on or like pretend to be something I'm not, It
Well,
just,
that
yeah,
that reminds me of I had a Akashic Records reading a long time ago and we talked about this on the last episode, but I will reiterate it again because it was mind-blowing to me to hear this piece of information about
yeah.
authenticity. And I asked, what does authenticity mean? And they're like, well, what does it mean? Like you hear humans on Earth have a certain meaning and definition behind it, like being your real self, but isn't everybody being their real selves, even in their wounds? Like they
Mm,
feel like they have to be a certain way. Isn't that
hmm
not authentic? And I was like, You're not wrong.
Yeah. And
So,
I heard this other comment. I don't know where this is from, but it was like the idea where it's like nobody's actually really authentic if you think about it. And that's like another angle you can think about it where it just like kind of
mhm.
feels like a mind fuck. But it's like you're trying on different things. Like you're here down on earth, you're in this body and you're living this experiment and stuff. And you are going to be different to other people. Like you express differently to different people because it's just a natural thing to do. So it's like, what is, I don't know how he broke it down, but it was just basically like, authenticity is just a trash thing to say anyways because it's like you're just saying it's in every moment you're being the most authentic version of yourself in that moment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So how
so
would you just define authenticity based on his definition?
I don't know, I was actually really kind of letting myself like ponder on it because I feel like I love to have curiosity around things that I don't know if I agree with them or if I disagree with them. I'm like where I wonder how this can expand me, but I feel like um
You
what
let
it
it
mean
tickle your brain. I do the
yeah,
same thing
yeah,
about a
I'm just
lot of
like,
different
"Huh,
things.
this is kinda interesting," and of course, that's, like, a really great space to be with anything, like, um, where you're not immediately rejecting it, where you're like, "Oh, okay, well, let me try that on real quick and see how that feels." But I think it's, like, more of where I think that, like, the general gist of how I feel about the feeling of what authenticity I think that people talk about is, for me, it comes to, like, having the freedom in spaces and in my body and in places to feel like I can, like, take my bra off or, like, take you know what I mean? Like, it's like a relaxed version where I'm like, I have the freedom to move around in my body in the space to say what however I feel like I'm expressing myself. Like it to me, authenticity just feels like the better word for me is just freedom. Freedom and expression, I guess, is what lands for me more clearly, I guess.
I feel like the definition, especially in my work, the definition of the word will be different for everybody. So
Yeah.
that would be something to dwell on for anybody who's listening to this. What
Yeah.
does authenticity mean to you and how do you use it? And then when you use it in conversation, how are you using it with another person and how you communicate? A lot of my wounds is about communication in my
Mm,
astrology. So it's always taking a step back. What does this other person mean? There's like
mm.
like I actually looked this stat up. There's 8 billion people on the earth.
Whoa.
There is that many different viewpoints on the
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah.
So with
So many.
everybody's cultures,
Hmm.
backgrounds, their lived
Yeah.
experiences, their parents, their generational traumas, all the things. So
Hmm.
I always like to meet somebody in the eye and like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
because like what beautiful discussions we can have with each other and how we can not push each other, but like expand and you're like, "Huh, even like think like whenever like we travel and stuff, like when I've traveled, it's like, "Whoa, I didn't know people could even live like that," or like that was a job, or like that was a structure, or like that's how families interact, or that's like the day, and things like that. Like it just expands you to be like, huh, that's cool. And that's even when I come back to like quote unquote my normal life or whatever, the life that I want to build. It's like I've been able to incorporate different aspects of my travels or different places or even people of what they've showed me on how they operate their lives. And I'm like, ooh, I would love to mix that into my life. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
I love that you're bringing up travel because I encourage everybody to travel if it is within your means.
Hmm.
But so I recorded 5 different times this week. I just
Oh
want
my
to tell you
gosh.
that, and I thought that
Holy
was
shit, that's
insane.
a lot of
Um,
energy.
it's a lot. That's why I'm like, I'm a little tired, but it's okay. When we
Yeah.
start talking, I'm going to be awake again.
Yeah.
Last week I was like, okay, universe, I'm ready to be a full-time content creator, and then Sunday came and I have 5 appointments. But I was like, okay, I guess we're
Bet.
doing this.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I'm starting a new podcast. It's all Filipino women. We're going to talk
Whoa.
about all of our things, like our cultural trauma stuff like that, like things with their parents, the Filipino American experience, or even Canadian, because one of them's Canadian. And
Whoa.
she's a historian too, which a lot of us, if you resonate with this, even if you're not Filipino, a lot of us have immigrated. It's like a part of our human history. We've all moved around. We've
Mhm.
all came from somewhere else.
Mhm.
And I don't know my history. I only know American history. When I
Whoa.
moved from Nevada to Maryland, I didn't realize that Black history was a subject that was taught in schools until I moved to Maryland, and I was like, wow, that opened up my
Whoa.
mind. And I was in my late 20s. So imagine if you're 20 something year old, there's a lot to explore in this life and this world. Just like meet it with curiosity and openness, and you'll be really excited what you will find.
Mhm. Yeah.
But so what was I saying about that podcast now? I forgot now.
Oh yeah, that you may so wait, what is it called?
Oh,
And do you have co-hosts?
travel.
Oh, travel. Yeah, okay.
Yes, there's okay, so there's a group. Okay, origin story will be our first episode. We have been meeting up for over a year, or about a year now, every month, and just talking about our stories, like what's been going on with us this week.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so beautiful to know how we were all the same and how we were all different at the same
Mhm.
time, in how like what resonates with us, or even in our common experiences with our parents and stuff like that, or our anxieties and fears and stuff like that, because it's all generational trauma. We all came from the same cultural soup,
Yeah.
if you will. So I don't remember what I was talking about that, but oh
Through
wait,
travel,
so
right?
travel, yes.
Yeah.
So travel, about travel. What about travel? Oh yeah. This is how my mind works, you guys. So, um, I recommend that everybody travel if they can within their means. And one of the girls was talking about how she loves TikTok. She loves
Mm.
TikTok so much because she can just, it's so raw and so real, and people just do whatever they do, wherever they are, the way they want to do it.
Mhm.
And one of them follows a lot of Filipino content. And I
Mhm.
was like, dang, I need to get on that algorithm because I'm not.
Mm.
Um, so I was like, wow, what an access to that area of the world, of the culture. And then my friend John pointed this out, is that it's really interesting that once we immigrate, we're holding on to that piece of our culture at the point in which we immigrated. But
Mm.
the motherland is still evolving and the culture is evolving back there. And we're holding
Whoa.
on to what we remember. And I was like, okay, mic drop, John. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for saying that. I
Right.
never thought of it that way, but it's so true. Like, how do we know we're doing the same things that everybody does back home unless we go back home?
Yeah. True.
So,
So true.
yeah.
And I feel like that's what's cool about like and you can think about all like the negative. There's always a negative and a positive side of things, but like one of the extreme positive sides that we get from social media and this platform and the web evolving as it does is that we get connection where you had to fly somewhere to actually experience that. Where in just a few swipes, you could be like, okay, let me. If you allow yourself, like, let's listen to somebody with a different experience, a different viewpoint, like they're living in a different place, a different country, even maybe. And I feel like that's a really cool thing about social media where like you can be influenced similarly that travel like will offer is that different perspective, like if you don't have the means right now to travel in that way. And so I think that's just a really cool thing that we have that. And that's, I think, why so many people love TikTok, because it's just like, you don't know what you're going to watch. It feels like you're just in somebody's backyard or in their house or something.
Yeah, and they're just hanging out. Or I
Yeah.
love the ones where I get to see where food comes from. Like
Yeah.
the effort it takes to farm food,
Oh, yeah.
and watching like migrant farmers it like gave me a lot more insight and more reverence to where
Mm,
my food comes from that sits in front of me in my table. And I was like, there was a lot of
mm.
effort. Somebody's blood, sweat, and tears went into this friggin' blueberry.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really appreciate that.
Ah, gratitude. Yeah, you don't really think about that, do you? Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. It's magical.
Yeah, it is magical.
I like stories. I love people's real experiences. It's my favorite. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah,
I
wait.
want to talk about.
Okay.
Okay, what were you gonna say?
I'll rope it in at some point, but yeah, keep going.
I want to talk about your hair journey.
Oh my God, that's what I was going to bring up. I was like, wait, we got to get back to
Oh,
hair.
that's hilarious.
Okay, we're reviving. It's telepathy, guys.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yeah, it is.
yeah, hair journey we were talking about. And I feel like I really love, and I mean, I love to talk about self-expression, and I feel like hair is a big part of that. And so, like, my hair journey has been quite a wild ride over the last, we'll say, like, I don't know, over 5 years, 7 years maybe. Because I used to have really long hair and I never cut it. I never did anything with it. And then once I got into nursing school, I chopped it and dyed it black, and had like a side bob situation. And jet black is not a great color on my skin tone. It looked like I was wearing a wig. And it was like I can't do very high contrast. So even when I was like bleach blonde, it was the same thing. Like it just then my face just pulls red. So I've experimented with like a lot of different styles, a lot of colors. I've been blue, I've been pink, I've been purple, I've been orange, I haven't been green. Maybe the blue's turned into green. But yeah, so
You're
this
like
most
living. You're like a living embodiment of color theory.
yeah, yeah. I and
I
I
love that.
think I think too, because I mean, we know that our environment, what we wear, colors impact us. They impact our frequency and they alter our frequency. We have like a soul color and all those different things. So I love
We have a
thinking
soul
about
color.
color. Yeah, we have
I
oversoul
want
colors.
I want to
Yeah,
know about
I
this. How do
know.
you know? How do you find it?
There's
Find out. I love
there's
colors, by
there's
the
a
way.
gal that so I went to at one of my retreats I had gone on. She channels and she actually I feel like this year she might be publishing a book about color because the way that
Love color.
I know the way that she was explaining it, I was like, oh my God, this is how I live with my colors, which is crazy. But I think you can either tap into yourself and just like let yourself be guided to the color. You can use your pendulum, you could go to a channeler and say, can you tell me my oversoul color? Which is I think is really fun. And yeah, so anyways, like color I
Can
think
you
is like
explain before you keep moving forward what an oversoul
yeah.
is?
Explain what?
Oversoul. What is a
Oh, yeah. So like my experience I guess with it is kind of like I don't know if I would per se have it be interchangeable with like higher self, but I feel like oversoul is like you I imagine myself having I mean, like we're living in this multidimensional place. And so like we're having so many different versions of ourselves playing out all at the same time because like time doesn't really exist. Like the only now is existing right now. Even when we're thinking about the past, it's like it's still all now, which is also kind of like a mind fuck. But like if you think about all the different versions of your soul, like if you go into the past life regressions and all those versions of myself that I got to experience again and be like, oh, whoa, yeah, I was a dolphin and I was a tree. All those aspects are all connected to your oversoul. So like your oversoul is like the one, kind
the
of
main one?
hanging out in her throne and just being like, I'm just like looking at all the different ways that I'm like learning and growing and stuff. Like they're all attached. I don't see them as separate. Like I feel like I'm all connected to my past and future lives. And that's when I talk about like flirting with your future self. Like it's not really like you could if you wanted to embody your higher self. I don't even think of it like that. I think of it more of like, okay, you have this multi-dimensional array of versions of yourselves that are already out there existing in the future. And you get to flirt with all the different versions of them to try them on to
Future,
see,
quote
yeah,
unquote.
quote unquote future. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because what is time? So it's like, okay, which one do I want to experience right now? And so it's like gives us more of that freedom and space to be like, okay, maybe this is in higher alignment, quote unquote, or whatever. And I think about too, the way that I thought about my previous career had shifted through thinking about this work that I just like came to me after a date and just randomly. And so,
After a date. Like literally, you guys, if you
literally,
guys cannot figure out what to do, do something. Literally, you
yeah,
can get inspiration anywhere you are.
anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it,
I love
yeah,
that.
I know. I literally was like, I had gone on or I had recently broken up with someone. It was my first date back out there. And the date went well, but I wasn't going to see him again. And so I get back in the car and I'm literally like, look at my phone to actually record a TikTok. And then I put it away. I'm driving. And then immediately like I like hear in my head, I was like, you just have to start flirting with your future self. And I was like, the fuck is that? And so then I pull
That's where
over.
it came from. That's the
Yeah,
origin story of
literally.
it.
So like I went on a date, I came back, I was like, and it was so nice because it was after several days of me like just feeling really down. It was like kind of pre-period. I was like, thinking like I look like a troll, like all those feelings that you feel. And so then
Real?
I felt like on the date, I felt really good. We talked about really cool topics. I came back in my truck and I was like, "Ooh, I feel good today. Like this feels nice. I feel like I look good. And and so then when that thought popped in my head when I was driving, I literally veered off to the side of the road and I was like, I have to just capture this before it goes away. And so then I recorded a TikTok about that where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm flirting with my future self. And I literally had a glimpse of looking at her. It was so trippy. Looking at her through my camera, like back at me. And I was like, whoa, like that
That's a
didn't
good
feel
one.
yeah, I was like, that didn't feel like me. That felt like future me looking back at me. I was like, what the fuck is happening? And so then that's the experience that first had happened. And I was like, oh, I can flirt. Okay. And then it just started to evolve. But the thought,
Ooh.
yeah.
So
So
she's someone in your phone screen, which is really powerful too, because like when you speak in front of other people, I've heard people say like I have to just imagine that I'm talking to one person
yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of like 100
Instead of
people.
a whole crowd. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So that is where, and that's what now I love to talk about in a lot of things where when you have these different versions of yourself, you could be all of them. You are all of them, but it's like, which one do you want to experience right now? And so
Yeah.
then you can kind of flirt with those versions of you that are out there. And that's what I did when I used to be a nurse. And, you and the same, where it's like, okay, I tried that on. I thought I was going to like it, but then I didn't. So then it's like, okay, now what? No big deal. Like, I feel like I just made it such a big story in my journey where it really wasn't meant to be all that, not that there's not meaning towards it, but I'm like, okay, that was just something you tried on and you figured out you kind of didn't want to do that anymore. So now you're doing something else. Like, no big deal. And
What's
yeah.
your profile in human design? Do you
So
remember?
I'm let me look it
I'm
up
sorry,
again.
I've been like riffing on human design. That's like all I can talk about these
Oh, I
days.
love it because I now
Now
go
I'm
off
like
of
now
yeah,
I
go ahead.
like do lives on it with my friend John, who's a human design reader.
That's so exciting. Okay, so I'm a manifestor 2/4, ego authority.
Oh,
Um, I manifest non-specific.
I love this. I love okay, two,
You mean
four,
you mean to keep going? I've got just like the
manifestor. No, that's
highlights.
okay. That's
Okay, that's enough.
like really like that's good because it tells me like oh, wait, what's your authority?
My authority. Oh, I love this because I feel like every time somebody tells me about it, it like I lose it again. So I've been trying to learn more about it. Okay, my authority is ego authority.
Okay, so I don't know about ego authority, but I love that you're a manifester now. Because after you changed your birthday, okay, she changed her
Yeah.
birthday, you guys, too, along with the name change, which
Yeah.
was really cool.
Mhm.
And now the energetics are different now that she's embodying a new character in her
Mhm.
story. And And it's really funny because manifestors are cropping up in my world lately.
Really?
And I'm returning to my human design studies. And I've shared in the last podcast that I like tabled human design because I thought I was going to be a reader. And then I decided I don't want to tell people who they are. And
I remember
now that
that.
I'm yeah, now I'm returning back to it and everything's landing like so differently. Like
Mm,
I feel like I'm really meant to study it now, but I'm going to study it in my own way. Like all the courses, so all the courses that I purchased over the years that I've never finished, I'm like building my own like spiritual self-paced spiritual university at home. Like
curriculum. Yeah.
yep, I have my own
I
curriculum going on. It's a lot of fun. And the last one I studied was manifestors, and now I get to talk about them and learn about them in real life because that's how I learn best is from real life experiences,
yeah.
not from like textbooks, what have you. I went so far in my brain about the idea about going back to school that I thought I was going to go to Harvard. So, um,
Really? About
yeah,
what? What did you want to study?
uh, I was looking into liberal arts and
Whoa.
business. So it's like an idea back there, like maybe it could happen, but universe already knows that I'm not into like studying like that.
Hmm.
But maybe it is in my future, and what I've noticed in my path is that every day is an opportunity, every moment is an opportunity to become the person that I'm visioning that I'm
Mm-hmm.
becoming. And I love back to the future self, the flirting with
Mm-hmm.
your future self. I am obsessed with that whole like when Stormy dropped that TikTok and she's like flirting with your future self. I felt it was like a full body experience. And then I shared it with one of my manifestor friends, and she was like, "Ooh," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it hits. It hits
So
so
I'm
hard."
so happy you shared that and feel that because that's how it's been and like that's how it's been kind of evolving in my life where it's like, "Oh my god." Like it's it's not it's not like super new information in itself. Like we know that concept, we know
No,
the future self concept, you know what I mean? But it's like, I don't know, there's the way that the energy feels in it feels so different and it just feels like it opened up so much in my life and I've just been sharing like how things are changing just in relation to me kind of having that as not a focal point but it's kind of like a grounding zero point in my life of like okay how are we flirting with our future self today and I
and
think yeah it's
I love
fun.
that because yeah, it's totally fun. Like
Hmm.
during my Substack journey, finding my writing voice, I've been realizing no, maybe not painting, and I'm not returning to painting. Which is another funny thing because that's why I was talking about TikTok earlier on that like I was talking about TikTok and I wanted to say this. A live came on and it was a guy doing watercolor. And in one of our earlier episodes I think we were talking about I think it was with you how watercolor frustrates me and now I feel ready now that I have somebody coming on my feed doing watercolor and actually showing what the process looks like. And I was
Nice.
like, okay, like so many things that I visited like in 2021, 2022 are coming back in my field in a
Uh-huh.
different way.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. I don't know what is happening
I
astrologically
feel
about that.
that. I honestly do feel that because I feel like sometimes when things are presented to us, it's like um they're not quite like we're obviously interested in them and um but we might not be ready to fully like grasp why. Sorry, excuse me. Um and I feel like this has happened to me when I first learned about Ayurveda. I like learned about Ayurveda in like 2019. I was like, what is this? I got a cookbook. I was like trying to figure out what my doshas were. We've talked about this. And I was like, and then all of a sudden it was like a halting stop where I was like, you know, it just like wasn't resonant anymore. And then it wasn't until like 2022 then I found myself you know, in India, then living in the ashram, and then part of that experience learning about breath work, then I get to learn an Ayurvedic class. So it's like, and I'm like, oh, wait, I kind of remember learning about this. And so it started to come back to me when I was in the class, and I became obsessed with it again, but it landed in a different way where I could actually digest and apply it in my life. And then now, years later after that too, it's like I still incorporate different things in my life where it's like, oh, okay, I feel a little out of balance. Let me check my dosha reference and see like where I'm, unbalanced in my elements, and what do I have to adjust. So I think they kind of like those ideas, like we could find, or the things that we're interested in initially, it might be part of the path, but like I think it's a natural thing to like put it down and pick it back up. And it's kind of just like it calls at you again. And you're like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this. Like this was years ago it came to me. So I think that's so cool that's coming
I
back to you
think it's
too.
I think it's cool or crazy. Maybe cool and crazy. I love
Yeah.
okay, so back to Substack. My writing journey with creativity is learning that it's my art and feeling surprised through the process of what happens if I marry this word in this combination of words in this sentence,
Mm,
or these two words to create a picture in someone's mind. And that's been a lot of fun. So back to your like referencing to the flirting. Um and then you were talking about Ayurveda and revisiting things that it's so interesting, cool and interesting and crazy that we were molded to learn a certain way in school. Like, we're going to be on this subject for this semester, these quarters, what have you, however your
mhm,
school was formatted or structured. And then you kind of get thrusted off into the world after high school or college, and you keep thinking that you have to live life that way. And I love that if you let life teach you, or spirit or source, higher power, or yourself, because you are, that it all wants to come back to you in the way
mhm.
it wants to come back to you. And I think that's really special
Yeah.
that
And
you
I
get
think that
deeper in the topics.
yeah, I feel like we always like think that we need a reason to study something, like, oh, I'm going to school to be better at this, or like I'm learning how to do that. And I think, and I talked about this concept on my socials a little bit ago, where it was like, and I didn't, the term came to me on my walk, and I was like, is that a thing? I have to like Google it. Maybe that's an actual thing. And what dropped into my head was like, finding like we need to find more personal studies and have more personal studies in our life. And I was like, personal studies, like I'm gonna ask Chitty
Is that a
Chatty
real
that,
word?
or
I
like
think
Google
I
to see
saw
like
you
what that
chitty
is.
chatty.
Oh, that's
I
what I
remember
call Chat
I
GPT.
saw that. I know. I know.
Yeah.
I saw that TikTok. That was really fun.
Yeah, and so I feel
Uh,
like that, like Ayurveda, or when you're talking about human design, or it's like not that it always, because our brain like is like, well, how could I? Maybe this is my next job or my next career. Or I'm going to be an expert about this and do readings, and so I think that like we immediately kind of jump to that. I know I do that, and it's like, wait, but you could also just have a personal study that's just for you because you're interested in it and you want to talk about it, and like that's what it is. It's just like you have reading time to, read a novel that's like fun, or you're going to read something to learn something just because for the sake of it's fun to learn about. And again, in school, like we don't really have that. We have the curriculum that's made out for you. And there's not a ton of, if you go into the mainstream system, there's not a ton of flexibility to be able to like what you're picking, maybe one extra class that you're interested in. So, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about the school system. We don't need to get into that, but
I
um,
mean, you
yeah,
can. I don't mind.
but
I don't
yeah,
mind. I always think like the school system did a disservice on how we're meant to operate.
yeah,
And I was talking about so now that I'm like out of like a scheduled experience. So I
hmm.
left, or sorry, I saw a big beetle flying out
Oh
the
no, you
door.
didn't. That's my spiritual
Big,
sign.
big beetle.
Oh my god.
And we asked about the scare beetle in your quantum hypno. Oh my god, you have
Yeah,
a
it's
whole
got
ass tattoo with a
and
beetle.
it's got a little third eye on it. Yeah,
I haven't seen any of those since this summer. So I
yeah.
was like,
She's a newer one. I got her last summer in New Mexico? Yeah.
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 What was I talking about? That was amazing.
The beetle flew by and distracted us. What are we supposed to know?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. What are we supposed to know? I remember, I think from your hypnosis, the scare
hmm
beetle was about like death and rebirth.
Yeah. And about the pivot.
Mm-hmm.
All comes back to
You're
the
a
pivot. A
master
master.
pivoter,
Oh, I love that.
master
That's what
of
I feel too.
transformation. That's what I wrote in the Substack when wrote in there in your description. I was like, this master
Oh my
transformer or
gosh.
whatever. I don't remember what I said. Master of transformation or something, but it's so true. And it makes
Yeah.
me happy to see you
And
just in your journey.
thank you. And I think that like as we share our own, I mean, that's why we probably both podcast is for that reason. Like sharing our stories with other people can help give permission to like do their own stuff. So it's like if I can share my extreme pivots to be like, whoa, she did it, or I can do that too, or oh, I'm feeling those things too. And so I think that like being able to kind of yeah, just not pave the way, but just show that like it is possible where you can just do a total 180 and you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. And you're like, okay, never mind. I actually don't want to do that anymore. And then you go do something else. And so I think that like sometimes when we make big changes or drastic decisions, we feel like we have to stick with them. But like sometimes you're like, all right, I tried it and that really wasn't what I wanted to do. So I'm going to try this instead. So I think it's like one of those things where it's a learned or learning and unlearning to what we were kind of taught going back to the school of like, you know, go to school for one thing, you get your job and you kind of think that that's just going to be it for the rest of your life. And so I think so many people now as like consciousness has, you know, continuously been raised, like a lot of people are questioning at least maybe it's just on my feed, but I know like a lot of people I see like doing total pivots and be like, I want to take a break on my 9 to 5 too, or I'm going to go do this. And so it might just be my own echo chamber and my social medias, but I see it all over the place. It's so inspiring to see other
I
people do
think
that too.
I think so too, because in my space, a lot of people have not been able to find work in over a year or over years,
Yeah.
like a 9 to 5 job and stuff. And a lot of people are freaking out about money these days.
Yeah.
That's warranted. And somehow money, like I still have been out of work and out of work since March when I quit my job. And I tried again to apply to a travel assignment like
Yeah.
recently. They're like, no, they only want someone who's had experience within the year. And I was like, I just hit over the year mark. So I was like, I guess I'm never returning to nursing.
Oh my
Like, I think
gosh.
it's
I literally
official.
had that question to myself too, because I quit just after you, a few months after you. And I was changing because I was changing everything legally just the last week, you know, when I was going through the process. And I was like, oh, I gotta change my nursing license. I was like, wait, when was the last time? And I thought about that because when I came back from my travels, I just was under a year of the being able to travel again because I didn't hit the year mark. And I was like, I wonder if I'm past the year mark for that. And so that's funny you just mentioned that because I'm like, I think about that as an option. I'm like, oh, I can, but like I also know that's actually not an option. You know, it's like, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
also,
like your mind's still like, I
yeah,
think out of safety is like, I still have this. But energetically, you feel like, actually, I'm really going this direction, but my
yeah,
mind wants to say these things to
right,
probably keep me safe
yeah.
about the whole transition.
And I saw
Has that
somebody
been your experience?
online, yeah. And I saw somebody online say like, "Oh, I just got fired or whatever, or like I lost my secure 9 to 5 job, so I might as well go after my dreams now." And so it's just kind of like that kind of energy where it's like, "Oh, okay, that safety net that I thought was there is actually not there anymore, and it wasn't really a safety net to begin with. It was like this false illusion anyways." And
Yeah.
so, and this happened to one of my good friends too, where like that happened in her nursing career, where it was like dream scenario, like da da da, like certain things happen. And she's like, whoa, okay, that's not even an option anymore. So I think it's interesting. I think it's like these, especially this year and even in the next few years, you'll see more and more people doing that. And I think it's just more of us kind of getting back into alignment of like actually what we want to be doing. And we get to get out of the mold that like has been there for so long. So it's kind of an exciting thing, even though it feels really stressful when you're in it,
Exciting
because you're like,
time.
oh no, I'm going into the
Yeah.
unknown,
Oh
which
no,
is like,
it's totally, but it's
yeah.
the stress. I see it now. Like I'm understanding, like over since my first interview with you, I'm really understanding energetics a lot more.
Yeah.
And whenever something's bubbling up underneath me, whether it's fear or anxiety or what have you, and now it's not even like big feelings anymore because I've practiced this or experimented with these feelings in my body. And now that I'm a practice embodiment coach, like I know how to move it, but you don't need to be a
Mm-hmm.
coach to do it. Like there are so many practices, there's like millions. Like go wherever it like the path of least resistance, what are you gravitated towards, that's your answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to know what wells up inside me. Like, I feel the rise, and I'm like, okay, breathe through it. And I'm like, okay, it's like a wave, and
Mm-hmm.
it disappears. And then I'm like, go on my merry way. I'm like, I'm on a mission here. I have things to do. Or
Yeah.
reflect on whatever those thoughts are coming up or feelings, and like, and also noticing and realizing that they're always going to be there, but you can
Yeah.
change your relationship to them.
That's the huge thing. I think that's been the biggest thing where it's like, I mean, I've been on very opposite spectrums. I've been in like over $10,000 in debt, and then I've had over 50K in my bank account. Like I've had very drastic money experiences, and the amount, and this is what's always like, I never really believe it when I hear people say this until I actually have experienced this, where it's like, oh, like the amount in your bank account, the numbers actually don't even, it doesn't change how you feel. Like I felt just as
Yeah.
stressed and like I didn't have any money when I had so much money. And because I was like, oh no, like it's gonna go away. What am I gonna do with it? Do I invest? Do I spend it? What is, And so like I wasn't expanded enough to hold it. And it's just such an interesting relationship that continues to
Oh my God.
evolve. And
I resonate with that so much. I wasn't expanded
yeah,
enough to hold it. I went through a whole money journey last
yeah,
year, and now it's like it's chilled out in my body.
yeah,
Money things come up here and there. I'm like here and there, and I'm like always wondering where money's going to come from next. Not like continuously, but it's a thought that crops up in my mind. But last year it
yeah.
was like full force, like hard, like hammering me hard. This was something that wanted to be moved through in my body to expand me for what wants to
Mm-hmm.
come into my world in the near future.
Yeah. And it's true, like as you work through your stories with this, like because we're all going to have different related to how we grew up or family dynamics, like circumstances totally are at play. Like I'm just speaking from my personal experience. And it was like I just was so shocked that once I had gotten so much money, I thought in my bank account, that I felt like I was going to feel like the safest, the most secure, the most abundant, and like I didn't actually feel those feelings. Then I'm like, okay, shit, now how do we get them then, and so it kind of makes you think like, oh, it is such an internal game. And you can, and I was just listening to a podcast, which is one of my favorites to listen to. It's called To Be Magnetic, and they just had somebody
Oh, you
on.
still listen to that podcast? I
Yes, I
haven't
do.
listened to
Yeah.
that
Oh yeah, I brought
in
them up, and
since
then yeah.
2021, I think, or 2022.
Yeah,
But I want to say I met one of my best friends through that
that's
podcast.
amazing.
I was a
I'm
part of the community.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I
Yeah.
that makes me think. I think they had a community walk coming up that I'm going to jot that down because I forgot. I was like, "Oh, I wonder if I can meet somebody through there in my area." But anyways, the conversation was she, and this is kind of like the similar thing that I had experienced, where she was like, it's the most recent episode. So she was like in like like 6-digit worth of debt. Like her business, she wasn't taking a salary, and all this, a whole story about how she was like paying her rent on her credit cards, and is she going to be able to, is she going to have to let her business go, and what does she do, and all this stuff. And that was, she talked about a similar breakthrough that I ended up having. That was like, I was hearing her say, I was like, wait, that was a breakthrough I had. And it kind of landed differently again for me to hear again in a different aspect. And she was like, I realized, like, if I'm not going to be able to feel abundant now in this circumstance, with like, this is potentially, and she's like, this isn't financial advice, which is like, duh. But she's like, if I can't find reasons to feel abundant right now in this situation, like, when will I ever, And
Yeah.
so thinking in our logical brain of like, oh, it's going to take me so many years to pay it off. And she's like, wait, no, like, but I choose to believe in magic and miracles. And like, something crazy can happen tomorrow. And anyways, she was just like talking about her journey with it, and actually, what does abundance mean to you? And what she started to do was like, which I think that is such a regulates all of us, is looking in nature and feeling abundant in nature, and like
Mhm.
tapping back into your body, and all those things, and accessing those feelings now. And and people talk about it, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, I just thought it was just them yapping about, as they have so much money. And I'm like, oh, no, they were like actually saying what they were doing, because it doesn't, I mean, you need logistically, we do need money to live and survive and eat. And I get that. But my experience for like what I was, quote unquote, in debt or having money, it didn't change the way that I felt in my body. And so I had to figure out, okay, what do I do then to access that freedom and safety and security and stability within myself, unrelated to like numbers in our account, So I don't know. It's an interesting journey that we all have to. I think like it's reworking our relationship with money, and remembering that it's just a very neutral tool, and we charge it up, with all sorts of stories. So
Yeah, it's all stories, and I think in the money dance, um, I don't know if we talked about this before, and I see money as its own spirit, it's its own energy, and it plays a role in like how relationships, your partners or not, your your relationships with your loved ones, your family members, your coworkers, or your relationships with, I don't know, food or your hair.
yeah.
And money is the same thing. There's like an energetic relationship going on, and it's a felt experience within you. And if you
Mm-hmm.
guys don't understand what we're talking about, if you don't know anything about like vibration, frequency, energetics, we talk about it in, I believe it's episode 8 and 9, the first episodes I interviewed Stormy in. And back to the stories about money, and for me and what it all looks like we always have a story of our mind takes us to, this is what it's supposed to look like, or how to be like the good person, or am I doing it right, or what have you, whatever that story is. And because you're not doing it the right way, you're doing it wrong, you're making mistakes, you're being a fuck up, all the things. I had to
Mm-hmm.
go through a lot of that programming over the past year, because went back to when you said I wasn't expanded enough to hold it. I shared a story on my Substack. I think I shared it recently, that I used human design, and it helped me manifest 120K income, like, plus,
Mm-hmm.
as a pick nurse. I only had an associate's degree. By any means, that doesn't even make sense,
Mm-hmm.
technically. Like, nobody as a nurse really makes that much money, and I made it possible, and it had to be in the state of California. It makes sense in the state of California.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't hold it, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
as I moved forward in that job for the next year, they always kept asking me for more output, more output, more output. Um and and then I quit my job, And now, like last year, I was like a lot of stress, a lot of pressure to like I put it on my business. And
Mhm.
now I don't have that anymore. I went as far as I'm now 50K in debt. I'm going to be very
Mhm.
honest about my numbers.
Mhm.
And I'm on EBT. I'm on Snap. That's how far it went with it. But
Mhm.
now I'm like, this is so interesting because I feel not activated. I'm not activated at all. I still see abundance. Like somehow there's food coming every day.
Mhm.
And I live in a multifamily home, so everybody has like food coming in the house anyways, but that's how
Yeah.
it makes sense from a logical mind. But I was like, and then the other energetic piece that I didn't realize about it is that love and money are connected. If you are familiar with astrology, Venus is the planet ruler for love, money, relationships, beauty, etc. And I was like, and it never clicked in me. Remember in TBM, they're always like, how is love and money connected? That was what your quantum hypnosis was about.
Yes, I was gonna say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it didn't hit me until I was going through all my money crap like last year.
Mm.
And I was like, I know this is where I want to go. Like, why isn't it all like happening?
Mhm.
And it, we had a lot of, I had a lot of struggles in my relationship regarding the money conversation.
Mhm.
And through that, we found safety that we wouldn't like kill each other or like we wouldn't harm each other or say terrible things. Like, we've learned how to communicate through this
Mhm.
and we've become more deeper in our relationship with each other, which was surprising to me. I was like, "Oh wow, like I feel a higher sense of safety than I did before." Not that he wasn't a safe person, but he also I don't remember if I said this before. He also represents my father wound.
Mm. Mhm.
So that's like another thing, like how to feel safe with the opposite sex. When my dad modeled a certain way, a man was like, he was my main model for what a man is
Mhm.
in my lived experience. So, and then as we go along, I'm like, where is it coming from? Like, I can't keep asking him to support me. Like, he literally, like, our combined income was almost $200,000.
Mhm.
And he doesn't even make he makes closer to 100K. So like I left my job with 120K type of bills. So that's how like insane it's
Right.
been.
Yeah.
And I was coming to myself with like messages. I was pulling cards like over time. And I was getting the message that it's not about you. It's not about you. And I was like, what?
Mhm.
What? And a lot of it had been to learn that, because like unlearning pride. I didn't want to be the bad guy in someone else's story.
Mm.
And that hit me so hard. I was like, oh God, okay. And the other energetic piece of it is that he's learning too. He's I know I can manifest and create the life that I want on my own. I've proven that to myself, but I've never done it in a relationship. And
Oh,
he
yeah.
hasn't been like, and it's different, right? Like
It is
now we
different.
have two different energies.
Mhm.
He doesn't have big dreams that I do, but he does want my dreams to come true. So
Mm.
he's been very supportive in that way. Not that he believes in all of it either, but because of the way I've like noticed how it's all unfolding, he has a lot of stuff to transmute too. And if
Mhm.
you're not in the path of actively learning, not that you have to, spirit, universe, life will present you with situations to evolve you if this is what you're choosing. And I was like, you know what? I am choosing him. I am
Mhm.
choosing to be in this relationship and I love him. So I guess, and then now that I realize that that's why it's taken so much time is what else do I want to do with my time? It always comes back to that. Like, what else
Mm.
do I want to do with my time? And it goes back to I want to dance. I want to be creative. I want to go draw. I want to learn this new skill, like what have you. So that's what my journey has been like. I've been very like raw about this conversation. Like I
Mm.
haven't said all of that out loud before. I touch on it on my Substack here and there, but this is
Mhm.
the first time you guys are hearing the behind the scenes on what that all looks like. But energetically on my end, I feel at peace. I'm open to explore. I'm curious. I'm enjoying all of Stormy's content, like receiving the messages that she just be spitting out on her platform. It's amazing. Like if you are not in a space where you can get your signs and messages and see the beauty around you, you have things to move through, things that want to be shifted through you, so that you can be the person who can be here in this present moment and enjoy the abundance that is already around you. Like you can't
Mhm.
see it unless you've stepped into that frequency, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my money journey the
Thank you
past.
for sharing. I feel like that's yeah, that's an aspect that obviously like a lot of us get really uncomfortable talking about money because we're told like, you know, not to talk about it, and you know that we have so many different stories within our family dynamics and stuff, and it's always like this, you know, I don't know, dirty thing that you don't want to like discuss like how much you're making or how you're making it and stuff. And I think it's really vulnerable and like really cool that you're sharing it on your platform of like what your yeah, what the shift looks like. You're like, okay, this is where I'm at. And that's what I really loved about that podcast, because she was like, yeah, I was like down and out and like all this debt. And then these are the things that, and then, you know, you just don't know what is going to come next. And it's like allowing yourself to be like, okay, well, I was guided here for a reason. And then she was guided to go to like a wedding, and then made peace with having to let go of her business if she had to, and made peace with like disappointing any investors she had or her co-founder and all these things. She's like, I have to make peace, that I have to choose my own peace in order to like continue to like survive. Like if and that kind of sounds like a lot of what you're like kind of speaking about, is like choosing your own peace day to day, getting back to your creativity. And it's like you just don't know what will drop in next, and it's like believing in that magic and miracles of like, okay, if I keep following those breadcrumbs and I keep taking one step ahead and like keep doing the aligned action that comes in, like I think it's like such a you know, that strong trust muscle that we have to really practice with the universe, God, you know, whatever you want to call the energy. And it's
I never thought I
challenging.
was going to be on food stamps ever in my life, ever
Yeah.
again. Like when I got kicked out of my house when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
pregnant, I was on WIC. I never thought I
Wow.
was ever going to be in this place ever again. And it was
Yeah.
really interesting to know that I was like, well, I've been here before. I've done this before. I'm going to be
Yeah.
fine, which
Yeah.
was like really crazy. And it was like past self was like, we got this, girl. And I was like, oh,
Mm,
thank you. And back
yeah.
to money, the whole time the way I see money, she's like a bouncing star around me. Someone said, oh, she's probably a fairy,
Hmm.
just dancing around me. And she's just like, you're learning so much. This is what I wanted for you, kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Not that she
Yeah.
like explicitly said that. There was so much, like, also the journey helped me, like, it was like this experience was pulling away everything from my life so I could be in like this very open space of boredom and exploration to
Mm,
find out what did I want to do? What was my creative voices? What stories I wanted to share? Do I want to be a storyteller or do I want to just spit information? How do I want to show up?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how vulnerable do I want to be? Like the whole experience from um getting the message that I'm gonna do a podcast and writing was like a surprise. I didn't know that was gonna be in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then to now, I had like it's like money spirit gave me all this space to evolve my nervous system and my craft. And
Mm.
that was a blessing in disguise. I didn't know that was happening. You don't ever know what was happening until like
Yeah.
after the fact.
You're like,
But
oh, that makes sense.
and now we're recording on video, which I was like, I remember like before even the idea of the podcast came through, years before, like showing up on video on the internet sounded like murder me. I'm ready. Like I don't know the idea of it. I'm done.
Yeah. You're like, gone. Like, will never happen. Here we are.
I'm like going back in the closet. I don't exist. I don't.
I think about that too. Like in 2018, I thought, like, I mean, I've wanted to create content for years. Like, I had a blog at one point when that was really big. And then I remember making, like, I've just had so many ideas of what I've wanted to do. Like, creating and like content has just been in always like something that I've desired to do. But like the same thing that you're saying, every time I showed up on video or tried to talk, I'd be like, "Ooh, ooh," I couldn't, like, I didn't, it wasn't maybe the right timing, or I was learning so many different things about being able to show up as yourself and be able to use your voice. And of course, like there was just so much healing around so many wounds that I had been able to access all of that the last few years of what I worked through. And it's like, oh, okay, like now I really actually understand why all those other times didn't work, or I didn't follow through, or I retracted because I was, similar to the money of like, I couldn't hold it. And so it's like almost feels like you're expanding and expanding, contracting. And that's how we grow. We can't just always be expanding. And I think that retraction can be really painful. And I used to have a lot of shame around that specifically of like, oh shit, I had all this money, I retracted back into debt, or I had these amount of followers and I deleted it and I retracted back into hermiting. And so I've gone through that process that is actually really beautiful. It's very similar to the life scenario that we were talking about. And that expansion of just the expand and contract. And I feel like now it's not that you were or we're never and I say expanded enough to hold it, because obviously both you and I were expanded enough to have that income come in or have that creativity come in. And it's one thing to be able to have it be received, and it's another, I think, to be able to actually really hold it. And so, how beautiful is it going to be of an experience of like when that income comes in again, that you'll be able to really safely hold it and be a steward and nurture it in ways that you didn't have the access points, because now you've looked at all the shadows and you're looking at all the dirt that's, the whole basement. We've got it covered. We know we can access abundance, we can self-regulate, we have the nervous system, we have the embodiment tools, we have all this magic that we can access at this quote unquote point of experience. And then when you launch the other direction, then you're gonna be like, yeah, this is nothing, because I just slayed my own dragons back there.